What's up, everybody? Notice anything different?
Jeannie, it's not your imagination.
We're live in person together, something that we've been wanting to do for a long time now. It's Daniel Allison, the average dude, my cousin Jenny Winny,
producer, sidekick,
who has been just really working hard to try to get set up for a live broadcast from the boutique that she's had right here in Spartanburg, South Carolina, right here on Highway 9, between the old 85 and the new 85. If you're wondering where we are, that's where we are. Jenny, tell me about setting up. Has it been difficult?
Well, I'm not going to lie. It has. And Daniel, Daniel, he wants what he wants. And so I set it up this morning. I've been prepared. I got here early.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And Daniel gets here and he's like, can we move your couch?
Well, I wanted the natural sunlight to be coming in. I thought
but just for everybody looking on, usually we don't have the couch right in front of our checkouts.
Yeah, so we made a few changes when I got here, but the idea here, everybody, was for us to. This show is about networking, and I feel like there's so much more energy when we are actually live in person. We have somebody in studio. I've always wanted to say that, so that's fun.
In studio.
Yeah, in studio. And I think that it's going to be a different dynamic. I mean, even now, when I turn and look at you, I'm seeing Jenny Winny. It's not virtually. So I think that that's going to be a neat thing. Jenny, when you think about networking, what do you think about? What is networking?
Well, you and I, we've kind of mentioned networking to each other before, but I'm all about just getting to know somebody else and knowing what they do. Will I use them in my business? Not necessarily, but then I might use them down the road.
Yeah.
Or I might know someone that they need, or that's what I think of.
Yeah, and I think about proximity. When I think about networking, I think about creating proximity. And once we create proximity and we have that exchange of information, then good things come from it. I mean, even the book that you wrote came from a connection.
Yep.
It had nothing to do with the boutique or anything like that, but being around people and having conversations, good things lead to that.
Oh, I agree. And my thing is, I know that networking is a thing that we should all love, but in my mind, it always has a negative connotation.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, tell me about that.
Well, because I always think it's like, networking is just very business, and it's like, what can you do for me? That's what always goes through my mind. Almost
what
like a
can you do for
salesperson.
me? Yeah, that commission breath, they call that, right? And I think that's a good point. I think that a lot of times we fall into that trap. Of course, I've done a lot of networking groups here over the last few years. The people that do good with these networking groups, what are they doing? They're always looking to give a lead, right? They're always looking to, what I always say is keep that information flow going, right? So you're sharing information, you're getting information, and if you're all in the same area, then this is information that we can use in some way. Yeah. And so that's part of this kind of new transition that we're going in. We are going to continue to interview any and everybody, but I did want to focus on local folks that are doing great things, that are already in our network. We sometimes we forget about the people that we already know.
And the people that we don't know.
Right. You got both.
That's what I'm saying. It's
There's
like
people right here in your backyard, you don't know them.
I know. And every time I meet them, I'm like, wow, and I just remembered something.
What?
I didn't take the phone off the hook.
Oh, no. So if we get a call, we'll know that Jenny may have to do
if you see Jenny do a mad dash back there,
that's what that's about. But hey, that's the thing. When you try, you do things before you're ready, right? So we're not quite ready. Why are they doing this? They're not ready.
So that little baby bird, you're like, fly, Jenny, fly.
Fly, Jenny, fly. Right. So would love to do more of this. So we're going to get our cameras ready and the audio ready and get set up. And we're going to start talking to local people that are, again, in the area. We're going to invite them in. If they can make it to the studio. By the way, your boutique is now a studio. I'm going to keep saying
I know. I like that.
Yeah.
I actually called my mom, a.k.a. my partner. And I was
My
mama. I said, listen, I'm going to take the phone off the hook. I don't want you to think anybody's in here. If they've abducted me or anything. We're going live. She said, well, I was looking for Jenny Winny and the Average Dude last Thursday.
Yes. So we did a little change, and I'd love to hear. I know Jonathan Peoples has joined us, and anyone else that's out there, please comment. We'd love to see your comments. Let us know that you're listening. But what does he say?
He's in that phone so you can take questions for the interview.
That's right.
Like, just call in your questions. Dial 1-800. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So I think it's the appropriate time to now. We're going to go ahead and introduce our guest.
Okay.
We're going to bring in Mr. Philip Leroy, who is the owner of the Leroy Group.
There we go.
And I got it.
You got it.
I was practicing that earlier. So, and tell us about this kind of the camera folks here. It's a little off there, but it's
It is
okay.
off?
No. I just mean, we're working on
We're
the
just
camera.
working all through it, y'all.
Yeah.
Look,
So
see, you can see I'm sitting next to Philip Leroy.
yeah, no, that's great. That's great. So, Philip, longtime friend. I say a longtime friend. We met here actually in the elevator. I didn't know that I knew your father-in-law.
Yep.
Stan Parker,
Who has been a controversial guest on the
Yes,
show.
yes.
It's been the topic of many conversations.
Yes, he has. He says, "Leave every man behind."
That's
I
right.
think that's what he said.
I think that's what he said. Yeah, leave everyone behind. I'm going to cue.
Yeah.
It's going to be me in the workout, and that's all.
Oh,
Everybody else. Yeah,
yeah.
I think that was it.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. See, I didn't make that
Yeah.
connection.
Oh,
I
yes.
Gotcha.
Well,
Okay.
I didn't either. I didn't make that connection. So Philip was visiting his girlfriend who lived in the same apartment building that I was in. So he was all dressed up. He was going to his job at that time, and I was in the elevator. And I said, "Hey, you need to come to our workout group."
Oh.
Right?
I had been pressured by Stan, who's my now father-in-law.
Yeah.
I had been pressured for about a year,
Yeah.
and I just didn't feel like I had time. It's hard. It's 5:30 a.m.
Yeah.
And I had kind of hemmed and hawed, and I think your suggestion was what kind of pushed me over the edge. Yeah,
There we go.
and it's been a
That's what I
game
wanted
changer.
you to say.
I've dropped about 15 pounds over the last couple of years, and it's been a really great thing. Done some business deals with the guys.
Yes.
Love to mention that kind of stuff. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been great.
It's there's so many benefits, and this is kind of the example and the theme, this little umbrella that I thought for this show is networking.
Mm-hmm.
Because it took that initial conversation for us to become acquainted. Great relationship there. And then he gets introduced to F3.
Mhm.
He does some business deals with those guys. He gets in great shape. You should see this guy run, and he's fantastic.
Who's faster?
What distance?
Yeah,
That's the-
what distance? That's right. What distance?
The 50-yard dash.
Now,
Oh,
now, now, and the dips. We're not even
Oh.
talking about dips. I told him I was going to mention dips.
Can't
because
stand them.
What's funny though, everybody out there, and correct me if I'm wrong, everybody's got their different strengths,
Yeah.
things, and this is just like it is in life, right? I mean, it doesn't mean that one athlete is better than another or whatever the case might be. It means, hey, we each have our strengths, and together we have a great time. We get to know each other. We do business deals. We get in good shape. You're not going to have a bad day after working out at 5:30 in the morning, right? I mean,
If you call dips or shoulder tap push-ups, which Stan is a culprit of that,
yeah.
I'm out.
Oh, yeah. That's not,
I'm
that's
a
not-
maximum of about 5.
And you're like, I think I'll take a break.
That's
now.
right.
Take a
So
Lay
break.
you hate dips.
I can't stand them.
I hate them, but I always had somebody hold my feet.
Hold your feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we go to where the art center is,
Mhm.
and so they have, we call it the graveyard, but they have those big stones.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
we use those stones.
Oh, yeah.
So you
Yeah.
were with Clyde doing the boot camp style. Do you miss that, Jenny? The workouts that you
Yes.
guys used to do?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot of energy, and again, all the associations and that
Made
sort
a
of
lot of
thing.
good friends that way, too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Philip, I know that again at that time you were dressed up. You
I
were
was.
working a corporate job,
Very corporate.
and some things changed in that.
Wait a
And
minute. So you were working the corporate job when you started F3? Is that what you? I mean.
Yep.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
yeah.
So I worked at a downtown company in Spartanburg, and put the suit and tie on every single day,
yeah.
and kind of jumped in that box,
Yeah.
and I was pushing myself down, I think, and
Uh-huh.
I've thought a lot about that, and I've kind of had to work through some things. I think there was some, to be honest, individual healing that has had to happen from that. I think when you put the suit and tie on every day, you kind of get into that mode.
Yeah.
Clean shaven, you're going in the way that they want you to go.
Yeah.
And I remember they had a consultant come in and talk about employee satisfaction and kind of get to know the company. And I asked a question. I said, hey, if you're working in an area that you're not really supposed to be working in, what happens in the next 5 years? And her response was, you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. You may not want to. You may want to be here. You may want to be part of this company, this corporation, but you're going to burn out because you're not where you're supposed to
I'm completely
do.
invested now about this burnout thing. 'Cause I'm completely burnt out.
Yeah.
And we were just, me and you barely started talking about that in the beginning.
Yes.
You know, before we went on.
What does burnout feel like?
Yeah.
Let's see if anybody else might be experiencing burnout.
Gosh, I'll tell you what, it's a slow process.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to, you don't necessarily, there's not a cliff that you're falling off or that you're jumping off.
Yeah.
It's a slow process, and it
Subtle.
eats
Like you don't even realize you're there until you're like.
until you're there,
Until you're
at the
on
bottom of the until you're on fire. That's
Yeah.
right. And for me, I've truly had to heal from that. I had a business coach at the time. I was trying to run our side hustle, which is the Leroy Group, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
Trying to run that and work at the corporate job. It's called a 9 to 5, but it was more like 8 to 8.
Yes.
And sometimes 6 days a week. We had a lot going on, managed almost $1 billion in self-storage assets.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal.
Yeah.
The turnover there was so extreme that I ended up as an analyst presenting to the board on a monthly basis. So not only did I have just the pressure of working in the job, but the pressure of, wow, I've come up quickly in this company, not necessarily matched in the salary, not necessarily matched in the hours, but there's a lot of pressure on you at that time. So it's really this pressure cooker of you got to get in the box, you got to stay in the box, and that led to I got to make a change. I have to make a change.
It's like when you go home, a lot of I envy people sometimes. They're like, I leave work at work. What do you mean? It's just like it's always in my mind. I
was yelled at for not answering an email over the weekend because they were paying for my phone, and it was, hey, I'm paying for your phone. You need to be available.
Yeah.
And that, if you have the ability to change your circumstances, which I understand, that is really hard to do. I would take a hard look at that. Now it's not all roses and rainbows outside. Entrepreneurship is really hard as well. But man, my soul isn't dead anymore.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And I can sense that. But now a couple of things that I've noticed, I want you to correct me if I'm wrong. I know that. So you were kind of playing the part of what they wanted you to be, and it was important for you to do a good job, and you did.
Yeah.
And you got some great experience from that, but you also felt like you're playing somebody else's game. You're probably exhausting yourself, right?
Yeah, that pressure cooker is effective. You will be able to perform. You will do things like presenting to the board, putting together 45 slide presentations every single month, knowing self-storage inside and out. We're dealing with the biggest companies on a nationwide basis.
Yeah.
The assets were from LA to New York, flying around. It's a big boy job.
Yeah.
So that piece.
And it seems glamorous, and people look at it and are like, oh, I'd like to,
Definitely.
What are you complaining about?
Yeah.
Definitely. And get paid well too, right? But until you take the time to look inward, which I think a lot of people aren't great at doing, to examine your heart and examine your soul.
Yeah.
Man, am I taking the time that I need to heal and to live? It's a longevity thing. It's a long game, right?
Right.
I'm 28 years old.
Man.
So
let's not talk about that.
I know. I'm 28.
Well, that's a wrap.
And it's a long game. You can't give it all to something else that you don't necessarily believe in.
Yeah.
And being 28 and already realizing that.
Well, he's very mature. One thing I will say,
you're ahead of the game.
Yeah, you're an old soul. Isn't that what they say?
I'm gonna see what this is real quick because we got to look at our comments too.
Yeah.
We don't want to forget. Joe said, "Burnout is when you allow the candle to burn at both ends. That's why candles work well, showing the light on only from one end. Help others, but learn to help yourself first and give qualitative, not quantitative."
There's the man, Joseph. That's Joe. Joe's always got good insights.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I'll say, like I said, I was running a small real estate company on the side, and working that 9 to 5,
Mhm.
9 to 9, 6 days a week,
And probably trying to give 100% to both if you could give 100%.
which
to
is
both.
impossible.
I know,
Yeah.
but you know, that's what I always say. I'm like, oh, I'm giving this 100%, and this one,
Well,
you can't.
But you did a great job. I mean, this is why they gave you additional responsibility. So you were playing the part, but like you say, if you're dying inside, is it really worth it? Now, I do want to talk about, before you went in with the entrepreneurial deal, you shared with me a little bit of how you kind of said goodbye to the current company. I thought that was a very mature and smart way to do it. Can you share that with us?
Yes.
Everybody's taking notes. This is what I say.
It wasn't. Yes, it was not easy. There's always pressure. I talk about a pressure cooker, but not only in the company, but with your family.
Mm-hmm.
Got a new wife.
Yeah.
Got a new father-in-law.
Yeah. Oh, sorry about that.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily going the same way, the same route that a lot of people are going,
Right.
and that's hard. That's a
You gotta sell
difficult
them
thing.
a little bit,
That's,
don't you?
that's exactly right. And I'll admit I did not handle everything perfectly.
Yeah.
I made decisions without necessarily input from all the right people.
Yes.
But in terms of how I exited the company, it's a little bit of a well-known thing there. The turnover is pretty incredible. I was there for 3 years, and by the time I left, I was one of the most tenured people in our group.
Wow.
At 3 years.
Is that just because of the high stress of the whole
Absolutely.
situation? Okay.
Yeah.
And there are certain things that could be handled better.
Yeah.
A lot of young people in a lot of high-ranking positions, and young people are going to move around. They may not want to be in Spartanburg, South Carolina.
Right.
I love Spartanburg.
Yeah.
Love Spartanburg. I think it's one of the best places, seriously, ever. I think it has high growth potential. That's
Huge.
why I came back to Spartanburg.
Yeah, you went to Wofford College, right?
Went to Wofford. Yeah, we can get into kind of history stuff too, but went to Wofford, moved to Greenwood, moved to Orlando for a year.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Orlando.
Worked for some interesting people down there. Moved back to Spartanburg specifically for real estate. We'll get into that as well. But going back to how I exited, I wanted to do it well. I wanted to be wise, and knowing that Spartanburg is a small town, there are impactful people in every single business. Yeah, you got to do it well.
Yeah.
So I wrote letters to all of the folks who I had interacted with on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, board members, high-ranking officials at the company, thanking them for my time, acknowledging that they had taken risks on me as a green guy that had never worked in corporate real estate. Yeah. Thank you for taking the risks, for appreciating who I am and
recognizing the potential that they didn't know.
Yes, I didn't mention anything about anything kind of mistreatment or anything like that. It just wasn't the time.
No.
It wasn't. It was not a time. Yeah, it was not a time to say, you guys really screwed me. You know, this went wrong and this went wrong. There's specific times for that. This was a time for, let's look at the good. Let's look at, man, they invested in me.
Yes.
They gave me my start. Now I can take this and move on.
Wow, that's good.
It was not
that's so
easy.
important.
Yeah.
Okay, because
just having that appreciation. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm just thinking, how else is this done? You know, a lot of people may just put on the sunglasses and say, "See you later, suckers." Right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can't do that. You've got to play, as we were talking about earlier, the long game. Yeah. And that means having those conversations, not even conversations, handwritten notes. When you told me that, I said, now this young man is thinking. That's a really good way to do it.
A lot of times, I mean, our first inclination is to be like, listen, this is why I'm quitting. Because you do this, you do this, and you do this.
No.
But you're right. I mean, they gave you an opportunity.
Focusing on the positives. Because let's face it, it's not picking on that organization. They run an organization. They make money. If you don't want to be a part of it, see you later. Right? I mean.
And it works for some people. It works. And they're one of the best employers in Spartanburg. They are a rock.
Yeah.
They're part of the bedrock of Spartanburg, have invested themselves here. And it was not for me. Yeah. It was crushing my soul. Right. That doesn't mean that it's doing that to everyone. And every single company where there are humans involved, they're going to have issues.
That's right.
Yeah.
There may be some that have different issues, and their issues match better with you and your personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But this company and for myself, it it wasn't the right fit.
Mhm.
So where does this maturity come from? Let's kind of go back to your history and that story a little bit.
Sure.
Those are some, typically you don't necessarily see that. Maybe a little more attitude, a little less emotional
Mhm.
intelligence when folks are
Yeah.
younger, right?
Where does that come from? I am a thinker.
Yeah.
When I was at Wofford, I kind of had a similar experience where for 2 years, I kind of had to just think,
Yeah.
hey, what am I doing?
Mhm.
I was in a fraternity. What's the purpose of this fraternity? What's the purpose of the weekends? And
Yeah.
I just couldn't match the two up. I
Yeah.
had to just sit and think for about 2 years.
Yeah.
And in that process, I was able to grow a lot
Yeah.
emotionally and mentally. And I think it comes from seeking understanding.
Mm-hmm.
So my dad is one of my best friends, and he has had a huge influence on my life.
Yeah.
And hanging out with him, working with him, learning from him, learning about Jesus through him
Mm-hmm.
has really shaped the way that I approach the world,
Yeah.
and seeking to understand why other people are acting the way that they're
Mhm.
acting. Likely they have something going on
Yeah.
in their life that I don't know
That you have no
about.
clue about. That's why they're acting.
Exactly. So it's
Give them the benefit of the doubt.
that's right. And
Yeah.
it's a lot easier to feel some compassion
Yes.
instead of
Animosity.
That's
It
right.
is. I agree. I always say, I try to put myself like, well, what could have been going on that day? That's why they did that. Give them the benefit of the doubt. So it's
Even
like,
if it's a hairdresser.
yeah,
See
Oh,
what I
man.
did to her?
no.
So some people we don't give the benefit of the doubt to. Long
Nope.
story.
Well, I'm sorry, we ain't going there. But anyway,
Sorry.
yeah.
There are certain people that
Yeah.
maybe don't.
No. Well, we want nothing. But so you get your whole work ethic and the way you treat people from your dad.
Oh gosh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I had a unique upbringing. For 2 years, when I was in 3rd and 5th grade, I was homeschooled, and when I was homeschooled, we would do
that. Say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah,
It's hard to
Yeah.
see because we're trying to manage the comments. Too.
no worries,
It's
and
like,
tell me to slow down
No,
or
no,
whatever.
no. So when I'm looking out here, y'all, I'm not being rude. I'm just trying to acknowledge the comment because I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you did homeschool.
I did. So
oh God.
my dad, again, unique thinker. He
Yeah.
said, I don't want the teachers to have all the influence. The teachers of the school system have all the influence. You got to have my influence, which I understand
That
now.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't easy at the time.
Yeah.
Think about going to 4th grade and then you're telling your friends, I'm leaving again. And that
I
was
got a better teacher.
tough. Yeah, that's right.
It's
Or
my daddy.
my dad thinks he's a better teacher for sure. But it was really a really cool time because 2 days a week, I'd finish my school in 3 days.
Yep.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, done with school.
Yeah.
And for 2 days, we would go and live a unique existence at my grandparents' farm.
Oh yeah.
And we'd get up early, we'd eat oatmeal together, and we'd go
I
and
love
we
it
would
already.
and we would work.
And that is some
And
work
work.
right there. And the thing is that I ended up homeschooling my daughter when she hit 6th grade.
Hmm.
And the thing is that there's a lot of wasted time in school.
Absolutely.
A lot of wasted time. She got to go to market with me, learn how purchasing.
Mm.
I'd have her, doing the work. You learn so much that way.
How to deal with people.
Yes.
I've always said, and I think I'm still maintaining this. I say some things and then I'll take them back, but I'm still maintaining this one. I think the best way to learn is to start a business or participate in a business.
Yeah.
And I watched my dad and his dad participate together and figure out these intergenerational differences.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather grew up in Missouri, no shoes kind of thing, poor.
Right.
They immigrated locally in the U.S. to South Carolina a little bit later in life. But
Yeah.
I watched that and the Depression era of thinking
That mindset,
and the
yeah.
preservation, and we need to pinch pennies and all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Watching that interact with my dad's generation, what a unique experience on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Mhm.
And correct me if I'm wrong. This is one of the things I wanted to ask you. I know that you're pretty handy. In other words, you can hold a hammer or you can do an Excel spreadsheet. A lot of times we don't see that. Did that come from the experience on the farm?
Absolutely. It was a lot of functional woodworking.
Mhm.
My dad calls it chainsaw woodworking.
Yeah.
It was kind of, we need a shelving system here. It doesn't have to look pretty, but figure it
But
out.
it needs to do the job.
And
Yeah.
you're learning physics, you're learning engineering, you're learning just being a general handyman, you're learning measuring, all this
Thinking
stuff.
about that problem. How do I solve it? Because that kind of plays into how you are. You think things through.
Right.
I think that's invaluable, especially what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And
So
you don't see a lot of 28-year-olds that are like, know how to even use a hammer. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean? It's just
Shoot, you don't see many. Again, I know a lot of
I'm
people.
just like ding, 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 ding.
That-
But I'm just saying, it's
Yeah.
like, a lot of young people, they're not used to using their hands and getting out there and that kind of work. You can't replicate that, learning like that hands-on.
Yeah.
And even though we built the chainsaw furniture, it wasn't any kind of fine woodworking. I had influences in that direction from both grandfathers, but no one who really took up the mantle and I learned from. I went to what I call YouTube University.
Yeah.
And when I lived in Orlando, I had to figure out how to make some money.
Yeah.
And I picked up tools here and there, and I just started making furniture for people.
Oh, wow.
And that was one of my income streams because at the time,
Things you learn.
Yeah. Hey, we need another chair here.
Okay, perfect.
We're gonna need one more chair. Let me see.
I didn't know that you did that in
That's
Orlando.
something.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that comes from that entrepreneurial mindset of watching my dad. He was the exact same way. And we'll get into the real estate side as well.
Mm-hmm.
My first influence of that, before it was cool, before Chip and Joanna Gaines, my dad flipped a house when I was 10 years old when we lived in Augusta, Georgia.
Okay,
and
so Dad was doing that way back then.
One time.
One time.
And I was 10 years old, and he paid me $10 an hour to come and work with him, or $15 an hour if I would come and work with him and talk to him as well. So,
I think I can muster up a few words.
Talk and listen.
Yes,
right?
because at the time, you're that angsty kind of, you don't really, your dad's not cool, right?
Right.
He's not super cool. So I would pony up the words and get that extra $5 an hour.
$5 an hour.
But
he's a businessman.
That's right. I was driving Bobcat at that time.
Okay.
Shout out Freddie at Bobcat.
Yeah.
Skid.
There you go.
She knows Skid. You know she's been hanging out in that tree pond.
But yeah, driving a Bobcat at 10 years old, and I think that house had almost 135 trees in the yard. We took it down to about 30.
Wow.
So just a ton of manual labor, but the stick-to-itiveness, the get knocked down and get back up again,
getting up early, working hard. I think there's so many. I mean, now that I'm hearing that and kind of hearing what you went through with your dad, and then with the move to Orlando, you're out on an island, so to speak. I've got to make some money. How am I going to make this money? I'll make furniture. I'll use the skills that I picked up earlier to try to. So I think that's awesome.
I gotta say that.
Yeah.
Joe said that he worked with his father and he paid me less if I talked.
Yeah,
that's probably true.
That sounds like what would need to happen with me.
My dad would have been like, "Hey, Jenny, shh, shh." Yeah.
Yeah.
We're lucky we get along pretty well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, you've continued this working with family now, and it sounds like you learned a lot from your dad, but now I know the Leroy Group is. I don't know why I'm having such trouble.
TLG. That's
It's just not flowing for me, folks. Leroy. Okay.
Yeah, I want to know what that is.
Yeah.
The Leroy
So
Group.
talk about what that is, and also how intermingling of the families. That's where I was going with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Unequivocally, family business is so hard.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom, but it is.
It's so hard.
Speaking from experience.
Mama knows.
Yeah.
And that same.
Why is it hard? Let's just say that. Why is working with family? Both of y'all can answer that. Why is working with family hard, Jenny?
I think because like if me and you had a business together, I'd hold back a little bit. I wouldn't want to say things, and then I'd be like, "What are you?"
It's being comfortable.
It's being, you're like, and you have different expectations of family for some reason. I don't know.
So right after college, actually, in my second semester at Wofford, I finagled the system. I was only taking 3 hours, but I was still considered a full-time student. That's that entrepreneurial. I had to get teachers to sign off on stuff. I got rejected. It was great.
Oh, that's good.
But during that time, I was able to work And I somehow talked my family into allowing me to be the manager of the commercial pine tree farm.
Okay.
And I
talked them into it.
I talked them into it, and I got a firsthand view of what it's like to be in a family business that is difficult.
Yeah.
And the thing that I figured out with them, they're grown people, right? They're some of them 70 years old,
set in their ways,
and they've got 50 years of history of working together, participating together, probably not always in the best way.
Right.
I think that happens with siblings.
Yeah.
And I'm not a therapist. I'm not a trained therapist. So when you start diving into those things and trying to understand the different situations, one's a plastic surgeon in Atlanta and one is an entrepreneur in Greenwood, South Carolina. So you've got different financial situations, different history, different beliefs.
Yeah.
When you're trying to tie all that together,
That
it's
is
a very,
wide.
very difficult task.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you have a business, but then you're also family. You know
That's
what
right.
I mean? So it's
And
like,
you still got to see them on Thanksgiving.
That's
You still
right.
got to
Okay,
see
yeah.
them on Christmas. And you still want to maintain that relationship because it is unique. It's a good thing that you have that 50-year history. But if there are any things that have happened in the past that haven't been resolved
or addressed,
it can be very difficult.
Yeah. No, I'm just kind of thinking that through. Yeah. So you've got different, even though you're within the same family, you've got different perspectives, like you say, different incomes and different ways of looking at things. So how do you guys manage that?
So, yep. So then I got that learning and then jumped right into bed with my cousin who.
What do you
You're like,
think?
I'm not going to work with family. Hey, Daniel,
That's
let's do something.
Right.
And we have pointed out that ridiculous fact so many times.
Yeah.
And the one policy that we have, you have to communicate.
Yeah.
You have to tell me, hey, you're being an idiot.
Mhm.
You're being ridiculous, or you're wrong.
Yeah.
And this is why I believe you're wrong.
Yeah.
And I have to be open to being wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
And being okay with being wrong, because those are the things that get covered up over time. Connor, my business partner, cousin, one of my best friends as well.
Yeah.
If I'm doing something Connor disagrees with, it gets covered up. That's the thing that in 30, 50 years he's holding in, and then you just can't participate.
And then it makes
together.
the little things look like something. It's like, Philip, doing it again.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's like, remember 15 years ago?
You
should have done that.
You have to keep that clear, the clear line of communication, sort of clear.
Communication. Yeah. And just, I think that I want to stay on communication, but just what we were talking about earlier, these different perspectives within even people that are close to us and working those out, that's not an easy thing to do. I mean, people see things differently, and we're not always going to be right. I mean, Jeannie, Winny, and I, just even on these types of things, it's just a fun little side thing. But
I'll say one thing. I'm like, I think we need it. He's like, I think you're wrong about that, and I'm like, Daniel, I've never been wrong.
Well, we're all wrong.
Me neither. I've never been wrong either. That's what's wild.
That's
Yeah.
Philip,
It's crazy.
Yeah. Nobody's ever wrong.
Yeah.
Everybody's always right. And that's why communication is so difficult. Oh, I remember what I was thinking, though, but we're talking about F3 and the different strengths within athletes, right? The different things. So everybody's got their little shoebox of things that they are qualified to do. But that doesn't mean that if somebody... We've got to communicate. How do we do that? That's not easy.
You're like you said, communicate. They have their thing, but you are also partners. So it's not like you hired him to do something for you. He's also
right,
wanting to
equal partners.
That's
equal
right.
partners.
So that makes a huge difference.
We've had a lot of discussions about that, and one thing we do, we implemented a system called the Entrepreneurial Operating System. It's from a book by Gino Wickman called Traction.
Okay.
And it mandates that every single week you have a 90-minute sit-down meeting, and that's the only meeting you have.
One meeting
a week. And in that meeting, it is essentially, a lot of companies do maybe a quarterly review or even an annual review, but on an annual review, you've got 365 days
a little too late.
of stacked up resentment, right?
January the 2nd.
Yeah,
remember
that's
when
right.
you did that?
So every single week we're giving honest feedback.
Yeah,
hey,
that's great.
Hey, I'm seeing this, and it just makes everything so clear. You've got a to-do list that you're responsible for.
Is it hard to hear?
Not anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not anymore. You have to have an open and honest policy. And even if it's not family, it makes it more imperative if it is family.
Yeah.
But I think even if it's not family, any business partner, any employee, your relationship and your job, even employee to boss, it has to be open and clear lines of communication, and having a rigid schedule to allow for that, to ask for that. In fact,
Right.
You have to ask for it, or there's a fear of, man, there's going to be repercussions for this honest feedback.
Yeah, this is intentional. It is, hey, we are going to air the dirty laundry, so to speak. We are going to say what needs to be said. And I think that's fantastic. I think that a lot of people could learn from that.
I'll put out a sort of a challenge. If you're not open to feedback, you're not open to growth.
Yeah.
That's true.
I don't believe that. You can tell me anything. I'm just kidding.
We've just jumped into nice. We've just jumped into social media in a big way at the Leroy Group on Instagram. Got to give that a shout out.
Oh yeah.
We've been pushing into that. And
whose idea was that? Was that something together, or how do we come up with these sorts of conclusions?
It was together.
Yeah.
Another piece of my background is photography and videography. So I've shot second shooter with my sister for weddings.
I mean, okay, just stop a second. Do you also do brain surgery on
Yeah,
the side? I mean,
he does a little dance and a little singing.
Yeah,
He does it all.
Dancing and singing, that's right.
This thing, and then I took some pictures of it, and,
Yeah, well, that's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah, but all these skills are coming into play now. And
so you got on social media.
Yeah.
Right.
Huge turnaround with that?
It hasn't been a big turnaround. We talked about it for 18 months before we did it.
Yeah.
And it has been fantastic. We've gotten a lot of opportunities because of it.
Yeah.
We've gotten real estate clients. Connor is a real estate agent.
Yeah.
We've gotten project management jobs purely from Instagram.
Wow.
And
wow.
Where I'm going
That's
from
pretty
that.
Quick.
Yeah. Oh, immediate. It was our first post.
I'm telling you, it's
a game
I did the
changer.
same thing, and it was a game changer. I had someone, social media marketing, Shelby, and she was like, "You got to do it. You're missing it. You got to do it." And it's like night and day.
Well, and let's think about this too, just for the others that might be listening. They waited. They had immediate return, but they waited. And so, hey, better now than later. But I think a lot of times we wait on things that can be beneficial. But we got to jump before
fear.
We're ready. Yeah,
It's fear.
Right, with fear.
And fear will cripple a lot of great things.
It will.
Getting back to communication and open feedback, getting into social media, talk about feedback.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
If you're sitting there with your phone and you're speaking to your camera, and it is being you're opening up, you're bearing everything, right?
Yeah.
So what we've done is leaned even further into that. I have a group of 5 people that I text every single time I put something out.
Yeah.
And I say, rip it apart.
Yeah.
How can I improve? Rip it apart. And it's almost, for me, when I leaned into it.
Yeah.
And instead of being afraid of the feedback, when I leaned into it and asked for it and turned and faced it, it changed the game. It is not. It is not as frightening.
Somebody said that they said you can't have fear and be curious at the same time. So if you're curious, you're not scared.
Right. So you're curious on how I can improve, and you're not. Hey, if it's the truth, it's the truth. And I think listen to what everybody has to say. You apply what you think you need to, but have that willingness to listen. What sorts of things did you hear? Do you have any? I have one of something that someone told me that was a game changer, but it's not easy to hear. But do you have any?
Well, every single post we do something different.
Yeah.
And the more repetitions you get and the more feedback you get, the quicker you're going to learn.
Yeah.
So anything from, hey, your lighting is terrible.
Right.
Just face into the sun. Face into the sun.
Right.
And don't get that right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Face into the sun. Right. The sound on the videos. I mean, it can speaking directly at the camera, not saying ums and ahs.
Right.
You have to work on those things. It's not going to happen immediately.
Exactly.
It's just not. You're just not going to be a great public speaker right out of the gate.
No, you're always going to look back at those first videos, and it's going to look like you're a beginner. And
Because you are.
You are.
Because you
Yeah.
I told Daniel, I said I came across our first broadcast video yesterday. I was looking, and I said, "Oh, it's painful to even look at."
Yeah.
It is. It's like
You got to celebrate it though.
Yeah.
Because it's the journey as well. It's the journey. You know, I got in there and I stuck with it, and I moved from this point to this point, and that is something to celebrate.
Yep.
There's a master class on social media and how to treat videos, and I'm sure everybody maybe has heard of Mr. Beast on YouTube.
Yeah, what a beast he is.
So he is one of the largest YouTubers. Over 100 million subscribers.
Yeah.
He's a young guy who lives in North Carolina.
Yeah.
And if you dig even slightly below the surface, you can see he is a genuine person.
Absolutely.
Has totally changed the game. Has bought a 100,000 square foot warehouse. He's doing incredible things.
Yes.
And there is an interview with Mr. Beast and on the Colin and Samir channel, where he breaks down for about an hour and a half how he's had to get through his own anxieties and work through that. He was a shy kid who was doing videos about counting to 1 million on camera. That was what he did.
Yeah.
That was where he started.
That's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
And now is one of the largest YouTubers ever, is pretty well loved by the internet, which is an accomplishment in and of itself.
Yeah,
right.
If anyone finds fault with him, if you can hate Mr. Beast, there's a problem because everything is so genuine.
Yeah.
He's doing it for the right reasons. He's putting that money that he makes back into making the world a more fun or happy or better place. I mean, I really like what he does.
He's got a philanthropy channel that it has like 16 million subscribers on its own.
Right.
He's curing eye disease. It's incredible. And he's probably 26, 27 years old.
Yeah. He's a youngster.
Makes me feel,
It makes you feel old. Now what I would say.
Curing eye disease. I feel very accomplished.
Yeah, well, what I wanted to say is you've mentioned several of these skills that you've picked up. You've got these things, but then you look for new ways to get uncomfortable. Mm. Some of the most successful people that I've talked to here recently, they're looking for that way. It's like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm making money, but I'm thinking about Enric actually right now. But Enric, here he is, he's late 50s, and he's getting in front of camera. He hated to be on camera. I'm not good at it, Daniel, he said, but he is. He's really good. But he wasn't in the beginning. He's taking the time to get practice and
that's what
really,
you got to do.
Growth and progress feel good regardless of where you are, right?
Does it feel good?
Feels great.
Some people, I would argue it doesn't feel good. You may know that you're moving in the right direction, but growth and progress for me produces uncomfortability.
Right.
Maybe we're talking about kind of the same thing, but
I think you're thinking of the end result of the growth.
Yeah, growth and if you're growing, if you're making when you first start working out, you're seeing the difference, you're seeing the change, you're making progress, you're growing. Is it easy to lift those weights? Is it easy to get up? No, there's struggle there, right? But seeing those immediate returns, well then, hey, I know that I'm headed in the right direction. That's where I'm going.
I know, and I'm
open to being wrong.
Well, okay, I'm going to go ahead and clarify this because I'm thinking like when you say like growth, like you had to quit your corporate job. You were growing yourself because you said that was scary. That's the uncertainty, and it's like
I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and it's like and that's what I'm still going to go back to. I'd like to know what the Leroy Group does.
Oh, well, here we go.
Yes.
So because you said, I knew real estate, but then you said something about managing. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So about a little less than 5 years ago, we renovated and sold our very first house. On Boyd Street in Commerce Heights, and it went really well. We learned a lot of great lessons. I knocked down a power line and knocked out power for the entire block.
Yeah, sorry, folks.
Yeah. Did I do that?
Yes, I did. I did do that. But what a great lesson! Don't do that. Yeah. And we learned a lot of lessons: how to manage money, how to manage other people's money, because we asked investors, and what a heavy weight that comes with.
Oh, absolutely.
I can't even that. Yeah.
As a 23, 24-year-old, not only do you have to ask for the investment, but then you have to back it up and follow
That's
through.
right.
So that can be really tough. But for the last 5 years, we've been investing and participating together in residential real estate.
Yeah.
And we did the one, and then we did 2 more down in Greenwood. And we then ramped it up. We bought a 39 property rental portfolio, and then another 9 unit portfolio, and then another 4 unit portfolio. So it's been a journey, and we've learned a lot of lessons along the way about how to manage other people's money and how to do it well, how to do it not one time, not 10 times, but 100 times. And with investors that support you, you have to return that money. You have to return that capital.
Yeah.
You are an asset out on the free market. So how can you get the best return for your investors while still being conscious about the renters that you are dealing with? And there's a whole lot that goes on there.
Yeah, a lot of stress involved with that, right? I mean, there's ups and downs and a lot of stress, I would imagine.
It can be. I will recall to the pressure cooker.
Yeah. Back to the cooker.
At the corporate job.
Yeah.
So compared with that, I feel light as a feather most days.
Yeah.
Now I've had days where I'm awake at 3:30 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had those days.
It's a little more under your control when it's your business. It's not like I'm being driven by someone else. Hey, this is my baby. I've got to take care of the crying baby.
And when you have, it's like when you say that investors, to me that added a little bit of pressure. You know what I mean? It's not just you.
And generally, especially when you're first starting out, these aren't strangers. These are people that you care about.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They're not going to invest.
That's exactly right. And they care about you as
right.
well. So you not only do you want to be successful for them, but they want you to be successful. And for me, because I'm able to take an ownership mindset, that's one of our tenets of the business. We take an ownership mindset. I put on more pressure on myself because I want to be successul so badly for them as well.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I can sense that about you.
But I'll share one story of a deal that has gone awry.
Yeah.
Because we can
celebrate all the good ones.
Yeah, we can
absolutely.
talk about all the good, but yeah.
Entrepreneurship is really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple.
Yeah.
Every day.
And the real estate game.
And and with interest rates the way they are, it's been a roller coaster. But 3 years ago we moved the money out of the first deal that we did. We did one deal in Greenwood, that one went well, and then we moved it into a second deal in Greenwood, $63,000 for about a 4,800 square foot house. And you say, man,
on paper that sounds
great.
Oh yeah.
There's no way to lose with that.
Yeah.
Well, in each new city that you move into, there are intricacies of the real estate game that you probably don't know about. And this can be applied in all businesses, in any kind of sales organization or anything. In each place you move into, there's going to be a learning curve. You don't know how steep it's going to be.
Right.
This was a steep learning curve.
Yeah.
We bought it for $63,000 and we redid the whole thing tip to toe, tip to tail. I think is the saying.
Yeah.
New roof, two new HVAC units and all new ductwork, new electrical, new plumbing. This house is new.
Yeah.
It has sat on the market for about, on and off, almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And we're in the hottest real estate market that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And what we learned about Greenwood, so if anybody's from Greenwood, here you go.
Yeah.
If you are not in the gated communities and you're trying to compete with those gated communities, you're at that same price range. Families are going to say, I could go right over there.
Yeah.
I could go right over there. So
that's true. Okay. Yes.
3 days ago,
the real estate of each city.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's got, and Spartanburg is the exact same way.
It is.
You got Converse Heights.
Yep.
You've got Duncan Park to a certain extent.
Yep.
You've got the nicer neighborhoods, some on the west side. But if you go in some of those in-between areas, it's a lot harder to move.
Yeah.
They're like, why would I pay that for that when I could have this same price?
It's competition. Yeah. It feels easy to talk about and think about and understand now. Hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
We made a lot of decisions along the way that we would take back if we could. At one point I said, hey, maybe we should just renovate the upstairs, not do the basement, limit our exposure. And we ended up going full on. And we went under contract on that house. This will be the third time we were under contract. Both buyers before moved on of their own volition. And this one, we went under contract 3 days ago.
Woo! Congratulations.
We're going to lose money. We're going to lose almost $50,000.
Oh, wow. Just
$50,000.
But you know what? You're just ready to.
We have to move it.
Yes.
It's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah.
Exactly. And this
but there's
will be
a
a
relief to
story.
that too, though.
Absolutely.
I
The
don't
mental
care
space that
Yes.
it had carved out about 70% of my mental space.
I know.
I got to get that
Yeah.
on.
And
so.
I'll have to say, early in the morning, the one thing I'd ask her from time to time is, how about that house in Greenwood?
And what you didn't know is that I probably had 7 people who were pretty consistently asking me about it.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like,
Now, let me say this. I was not asked. My mindset is always, I want to hear good news. So I kept anticipating that I was going to ask you maybe good news. I wasn't like, I was like, oh, yeah, Mr. Entrepreneur, how's that house in Greenwood? Because you get that too, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you get that kind of like, oh, I told you so. The market's tough and that sort of thing. Do you get that sometimes?
yes. And people have been unbelievably gracious.
Yeah.
And you have to have grace with yourself and with everyone else that you're dealing with, even in business and on a daily basis. You have to have that grace.
Mm-hmm.
And our investors are very gracious. And you know who you are.
Yeah.
I am grateful that no one brought the hammer down, right?
Yeah.
Because it feels like we're in it together. We have a good organization like that.
Yeah.
But no, yes, we had both ways. All those people were saying in a caring and genuine way, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Are you still doing okay, like financially and all that? And thank goodness we are. We're doing fine. We were able to make it up in other ways, but not an easy situation.
No, but I think you've handled that well, and I think that getting and attracting the right investors, it comes from your vibe and who you are as a person, very well from the things that you learned from your dad.
Yeah, and I was so do y'all manage rentals or do y'all flip? Or you said Connor is an agent, so y'all can sell them.
Doing a little bit of everything.
Yeah, I'm just
And
I'm
we're
just digging deeper.
I love it.
Yeah.
So so clarity of message you're harping on, which is it's an interesting time for that.
Yeah.
So again, Donald Miller, there's another reference. Donald Miller has Business Made Simple. And he talks a lot about clarifying your message, making it caveman like
Simple.
3 words or less.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is what I sell. This is what we do.
Bonka.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it makes it a lot easier to understand. If you go back prehistoric times or caveman times, they're concerned about 2 or 3 things. Where do I get water? Where do I get shelter? Where do I get food?
Yes.
And in the same way, we're dealing with that now.
Yep.
It's how do I find good community? How do I find sustenance for my family?
Yes.
And I need to have a roof over my head.
A version of that.
So
right?
so when selling, that is what you need to attract or bring out in the people that you're selling to. So very topical that you're asking. We are working through that. We do kind of do a lot right now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So our ongoing monthly income is from asset management. So that's just the direction of the rental portfolios that we own. We own a portion of that as well, but we get monthly fees for directing the property manager. So the property manager is going to handle the day-to-day operations of fixing the toilet,
Right.
the call on New Year's Eve, that they're going to go out and handle that. We're one step above that. We're guiding rent increases, the actual management of the assets. So renovations, sales of the renovations that we do, that kind of stuff. So that's our monthly income. On a fee side, we do project management. So we'll work with a GC to manage their project for them. And then Connor also sells and buys houses for other people. So that's our how we eat, live. That's our monthly income.
Well, I mean, it's like all this to do with real estate.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All things real estate, and something that we talk about a lot is, sometimes, as you shave ice, it starts taking shape.
Yes.
And that, you don't have to have that message so clear.
Right.
What is genuine and the average do? I keep changing my mind. It's about communication. It's about networking, but it's about all those things.
But you know what?
He changes it.
You're out here doing it, and you're out here figuring it out.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And that is 97% of the battle is going and attempting to find that clarity.
That's right, and there's growth as you're doing that. So
Absolutely.
just because you and us and whatever we are working up, we're taking action, we're doing things,
Right.
and there's learning and growth. We'll debate later whether it's painful growth or growth is always good. Okay.
It's not. It can be uncomfortable. It's not necessarily painful, but
Yeah, but if I'm making progress, I'm feeling good wherever I'm at in life. Right.
We call it tuition.
Yeah.
We do pay tuition.
Boy, Greenwood gave you a big tuition, didn't they?
Greenwood
University.
Greenwood was a master's, a bachelor,
Yeah.
doctorate. I can write a thesis on
Yeah,
it.
you're right.
So real quickly, I've got 5 minutes here, and I just wanted to talk about, I know you do a lot of networking, and that's one of the themes that really what I want to do with this and with Jenny is meet new people, meet people we already know and establish those relationships. I know you're a great networker. I've seen you moving and shaking.
Oh
Wait,
yes,
I gotta know something. What's your nickname for F3?
I'm Huckleberry.
Huckleberry, that's why I call him Huck from time to time
Huck.
here.
As
Yeah.
in, I'm your Huckleberry?
I'm your Huckleberry.
Yeah. Bless his heart.
No, I love it because Daniel didn't. Okay,
Yeah. I
I
don't
won't
know.
go there, but that's my favorite. Yes.
Yeah. What is the key to effective networking? That's what I want to ask you, I think.
We raise a lot of money,
Mm-hmm.
and that requires networking.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what we have found is my sort of unique life, being young and having moved so many places, is it's difficult to find community when you move around and you're non-committal and you haven't remained in place for a long time. We've had deals, we've had money, we've had opportunities sort of ripped out from under us because we haven't been in place for as long.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the bedrock for us of networking is commitment to an area.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when people see that you're committed to the area and that you're going to be there for a while, they can tend to be more likely or desire more to invest with you.
Mm-hmm.
They know you're going to be around. Your family's here. Your house is here. You're established.
Yep.
So I think we've seen that a lot. I've been back in Spartanburg for maybe 7 or so years, and just recently has that started to happen, where it's like, okay, this guy's not really a flight risk. He's married. He's in the area.
He's stable.
That's
He's
right.
made some roots now.
Well, it's interesting. We didn't plan this, but talking to you on this first time that we're doing it in person, it's the same type idea. We want to start focusing on the local area and grow those connections and gain momentum, gain practice. There's more energy in person. Jenny does a great job setting up this studio. You ought to hear her plans. This studio / boutique, it's going to be fantastic.
It is. I mean, it is.
So,
I'm just branching out.
Branching out.
Studio time. Rent your studio time here.
But Philip, Huck, Leroy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Been a great time getting to know you a little better. Jenny, Winny, any last words?
No, it'll all be a lot better next time when I have it set up.
Yeah, next time.
This was great.
Yeah.
This was fantastic.
This was fantastic.
I had a blast.
Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we will see you next week. So, Jenny, do your thing there.
Okay, I'm trying.
And then I will say, let's